I literally just remembered this guy, so I'm quickly writing it down here so I don't forget it. For a little background, this happened in Florida, between 2004 to 2006. Yeah, I'm an early 2000s kid. So I was around 5 to 7 years old, I'm a female, while my older sister was a few years older than me. I'm a French-American who grew up overseas, so visiting my grandparents in America had always been an interesting experience. The neighbour was a very old, skinny man from what I can remember who had a wife. We never really saw the wife much, besides her trimming the hedges and occasionally staring at my sister and I while we ran around in the backyard. To make sense for the following events, my grandparents used to live in the house they moved into, so when my grandparents moved, they went one house over. I remember having left a few toys in that old house, and having always wanted to go in there and get them on my own time, and try to get them back. But this never happened. I remember on several accounts, this old man would try and coax my older sister and I into his house. Sometimes he would try this with us separately, and other times he would try to get us individually to enter his house. I was just a little kid at the time, but I do remember certain things in detail. There was one encounter with the neighbour that I'll never forget. One time I was playing out in the backyard, looking for lizards and whatnot, when I saw the neighbour waving at me. I remember watching him for a bit before trotting over to him. He seemed to be signalling for me to come over into his garage. Right before I did so, my older sister appeared behind me and grabbed my hand. She told me off for almost going into the neighbour's property. When I told her what happened, I remember she looked over at him. The old man began to say things like, "Your dog is in my garage. She wandered in here. Come and get your dog. I'll even give you two some candy," and stuff like that. After a few minutes of this, I had grown kind of bored and sat down on the grass. I remember my older sister leaning down a bit to speak into my ear, and she said something like, "When I say so, we run, got it?" I just nodded in return, wondering why we even needed to run. As my older sister stared the man down, he soon began to start walking out of his garage. The neighbour began to talk about Candy, our dog, and other things while he began to approach us. I remember looking at him in confusion as the man began to approach us. Seeing this, my sister whispered, "Now," to me as we both began to book it back to the house, with the man screaming at us to come back. Once we ran inside, my older sister told my parents what happened, and they confirmed that we should never talk to the man ever again. Oh, and by the way, the dog was in the house the entire time, and she was fine. At the time, I just thought it was a weird encounter and tossed it aside. Several times after that, I remember the neighbour trying to get me to follow him inside, when I'd gone looking for golf balls and had wandered too close to their house. This always ended in me tempting death and waiting till he was a few seconds away from grabbing me before I darted back to the house. Either that, or my older sister would come and rescue me. When I was around 9 years old, in about 2008, the old man died. From what, I don't really remember, but I think it was something to do with his heart. To be honest, at the time, I didn't care at all. I was happy he was gone, so my older sister and I wouldn't get creeped on anymore. After his death, his son came and got his wife, the mum, and they moved out. Now that I think about it, this was very creepy. But at the time, I didn't think about it much, I guess. What I wonder about is, why did he want me and my older sister come into his house/garage? Why did he lie about the dog? And what was he planning to do with us?